If you've traveled for an extended period of time, you've probably flown on airlines such as Delta Connection, United Express, American Eagle, or other carriers of that sort. These airlines often fly smaller regional jets and puddle jumpers between big and small towns. If you aren't familiar with the world of aviation, you might not understand the differences with these carriers or why airlines have them. It's a lot deeper than you might think. Beneath these express lines is a whole world of regional airlines that have a history all their own. Contracts and long lines of negotiations, and a critical role in the modern industry. In fact, these smaller carriers had a massive hand in preventing the fall of larger airlines in the post-9/11 era. Which leads to the primary question: what are regional airlines and how do they benefit the airline industry? Stick around to find out. In the early 1900s, when aviation was still in its infancy, most aircraft were used for wartime purposes. Most airlines either functioned as mail and cargo carriers or charter flights for soldier transport. In the post-war era, only a handful of airlines were capable of cross-country or global flight operations. Most airlines functioned similar to regional and tour carriers of today. For example, Delta was once considered the airline of the South, as most of its operations were in the Mississippi River and Bible Belt region of America. Before the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978, companies were limited in the routes they could fly, as the federal government at the time had excessive amounts of control over airfare. Also, air travel at the time was, for most people, impractical or expensive. The modern infrastructure of airports, navigation systems, and market demand was still being researched. Not to mention the technological limitations of aircraft, as nearly all aircraft at that point were turboprops with limited range or speed. Most cross-country travel was done either by car or train. For most travelers, airplanes were considered a luxury or government entity. Because of this, most carriers focused on the in-flight experience and paying homage to the community that it served, similar to cruise ships or air tours. The term regional was used loosely to describe the nature of these companies, and in some cases were one and the same with mainline carriers. Airlines structured their services along point-to-point routes with many stops between the originating and terminating cities. Some of the routes covered less than 100 miles. This system of air transportation effectively forced most carriers to be regional in nature. But a lack of distinction among these airlines soon began to change with the creation of transcontinental air transport in 1929.
In the heart of New York, a great railroad station with the beginning of your transcontinental rail and air journey from coast to coast. Here, at any one of the windows, we buy our tickets to California, as simply as we would ordinarily buy just the rail ticket alone. Then, at the gateway to the train, friends see us off. There's a new kind of spirit in the air each day when this train departs. It's like those moments before a smart deluxe liner sets sail for Paris and the Riviera. And at exactly 6:05 p.m., the Airway Limited, first and only train of its kind in the world, with a direct airline connection, pulls out with its air-minded guests.
Referred to as the Lindenberg Line, it became America's first coast-to-coast air service. Along with this, the development of long-range aircraft operated by flag carriers such as British Overseas Airways Corporation and Trans-Canada Airlines continued to develop a more sophisticated interstate and global network of airlines. As flag carriers continued to expand, smaller startup airlines found niches in rural routes that often lacked any real transportation structure between different cities. Along with this, the development of jet-powered aircraft such as the Fokker F-27 and BAC-111 rapidly extended the range and capabilities of regional carriers, causing waves of overlapping routes with other carriers. As the Deregulation Act was passed, the U.S. government often encouraged and supported the creation and growth of regional airlines, primarily for the purpose of connecting smaller communities with larger cities, known as local service carriers at the time. Some of these carriers included Frontier, Ozark Airlines, Southern Airways, and Piedmont Airlines. The definition of major airlines in the United States was solely based on total revenue, often causing confusion of the status of many carriers. As the market for regional carriers grew, the technology grew with it. The development of much more advanced aircraft, such as Canadair regional jets and Embraer aircraft, allowed the market to expand and become more practical. Many airlines formed partnerships and code-share agreements. An example of this would be Utah-based SkyWest Airlines and Delta as they merged with Western Air, taking its Salt Lake City hub. The market became part of standard airline operations in the United States and the rest of the world.
A plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center.
I got to tell you, we were all saying around here that it was very interesting that it would be a bomb and it would be so high up. So perhaps it was a plane. We have no...
The tragedy of the September 11th attacks would not only change airline regulations, but it would also lead to airlines that once had a strong grip on the market ultimately hanging on by a thread. Airlines struggled immensely to fill the seats, so much so to the point that entire Boeing 767s were flying as little as 10 people at a time. Fears of flying, burdensome regulations, and vastly changing operations made each day for a carrier feel as if it were its last. Not to mention the dwindling reputation of airlines such as Delta and United becoming the rear end of the joke in most industry commentary at the time.
And now when I'm not with my girlfriend, you can still do anything to me. I will tolerate any treatment. Like I travel alone sometimes, and I'll put up with anything. Like I'll book a ticket on some garbage airline. I don't want to name an actual airline, so let's just make one up. Let's call it like Delta Airlines. So I'll book a ticket on Delta Airlines. And I'll show up at the airport. And I go, "Can I get on the plane now, please?" And they go, "No, it's delayed 9 hours." And I go, "Okay." And then I go to the bathroom. And then I come out of the bathroom and I go, "Any updates?" And they go, "Yeah, we took off while you were in the bathroom because we hate you. Now take this meal voucher that doesn't work. Go fetch." And I go, "Okay." I go over to the Delta help desk, which is an oxymoron, and I go, "Can I please go home on an airplane?" And they go, "No. In fact, we're gonna frame you for murder. And you're gonna go to jail for 30 years. And I go, "Why are you doing this to me?" And they go, "Because we're Delta Airlines, and life is a f***ing nightmare."
Because of this, airlines were desperate for solutions to ease the burdens of the ever-changing industry. Regional carriers soon became a vital asset for airlines to maintain their status. Delta began developing a closer relationship with SkyWest Airlines and many others. The ultimate advantage of regional carriers is that the smaller aircraft, some of which had similar capabilities to that of standard commercial jets, had less seats to fill, and most of the resources such as jet fuel and maintenance would be covered by the regional carriers, ultimately reducing the overall cost of operation and allowing for more economical transport. 30 passengers on a 50-seater CRJ-200 is a far better use of resources than 30 passengers on a 150-seater 737-600. Having an airline such as SkyWest handle the allocation of fuel and maintenance while requiring an operational fee and a portion of ticket sales greatly reduced the burdens and challenges for mainline carriers. Many regional airlines welcomed these partnerships with open arms, as it became a great opportunity for business and future growth along with expanding its presence in the industry. The early 2000s proved to be the decade for regional carriers. In the 2000s and 2010s, SkyWest Airlines focused on modernizing its fleet and expanding its route network to serve more destinations across the United States and beyond. The airline introduced larger, more fuel-efficient aircraft such as the Embraer E-Jet family and the Bombardier CRJ series to replace older turboprop aircraft. SkyWest Airlines continued to strengthen its partnerships with major carriers operating regional flights under the American Eagle, Delta Connection, United Express, and Alaska SkyWest brands. Other airlines began to follow suit. Republic Airlines focused on providing regional airline services for major carriers such as US Airways, United, Delta, and American Airlines. Republic Airways Holdings became one of the largest regional airline operators in the United States, operating a fleet of regional jets and turboprops. Republic Airways also entered into agreements to operate regional flights for Frontier and American Airlines, further expanding its presence in the regional airline market. Piedmont Airlines left a lasting impact on the regional aviation landscape, pioneering the development of commuter and regional airline services in the United States. The airline's commitment to customer service, safety, and reliability earned it a reputation as a trusted regional carrier. Following US Airways' merger with American Airlines in 2013, Piedmont Airlines transitioned to operate as a regional carrier under the American Eagle brand. Today, Piedmont Airlines continues to provide regional feeder services for American Airlines, connecting passengers from smaller cities and regional airports to American's hubs across the United States. In subsequent years, Simmons Airlines, later referred to as Envoy, expanded its operations and fleet, becoming a prominent regional airline in the American Eagle network. The airline operated a fleet of turboprop and regional jet aircraft connecting smaller cities and regional airports to American Airlines hubs. Throughout the 2000s and early 2010s, Envoy Airlines continued to grow and modernize its fleet, transitioning to an all-jet fleet of Embraer regional jets. The airline expanded its route network, serving destinations throughout the United States, Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean. Today, Envoy Air operates as one of the largest regional airlines in the United States, providing regional feeder service for American Airlines. The airline operates a fleet of modern Embraer and Bombardier regional jets serving over 150 destinations across North America. Envoy Air, just like many of the other airlines, continues to play a vital role in the American Airlines network, connecting passengers from smaller cities and regional airports to American Airlines main hubs where they can access the global route network of American Airlines and its partner airlines. Other airlines such as GoJet and Commute Air also began to operate as puddle jumpers for United Airlines. Endeavor Air and Compass Airlines took a similar route with Delta Airlines. Regional carriers, just like their mainline counterparts, also had mergers and vertical integration of their own. American Southeast and ExpressJet Airlines merged with SkyWest, ultimately expanding its network to both the East Coast and the West Coast. Some mainline carriers have a portion of their airline operating as a regional entity. Hawaiian Airlines heavily relies on the Boeing 717 for inter-island operations in Hawaii, serving as a puddle jumper between the islands and Hawaiian Air hubs. Regional carriers aren't limited to the United States. In Europe, there's KLM Cityhopper, Air Corsica, TAP Express, and recently defunct Flybe, offering similar services. In Asia, there's Bangkok Airways, Garuda Indonesia, Tiger Air Taiwan, and Philippine Airlines Express. In Africa and the Middle East, the regional airlines, some of which also function as flag carriers, include South African Airways Express, Rwanda Air Express, Oman Air Regional, Gulf Air, and Egypt Air Express. In South and Central America, there's Azul Connectica, Avianca Express, Latam Express, Copa Airlines, Nature Air, and Tropic Air. This is only the surface of regional air travel in these parts of the world, and they have a history all their own, which I'll be covering in a future video. However, it does prove that regional airlines are quite the lucrative market, and it's much larger than you would think. This is only part of the vast network of regional airlines, and it goes even deeper than that. There's still more to explore, but until then, thank you for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.